Hey guys, so today I want to talk about self-regulating and in the sense of central nervous system, in the sense of the state that you're in, because a lot of times we think that it's a reactive system, that we feel a certain way or we get a certain way because of exterior motives of what's happening out there. And while that's certainly the case sometimes where situations might make us feel a certain way, there are things that we can do to self-regulate. The two main states that we are usually in are what's called sympathetic or a parasympathetic state, which is regulated mostly by a nervous system. Like I mentioned, there are some exterior events that can cause us to shift between these states. But what's the important thing in this introductory part is that we know that there are two of them, and it's mostly regulated by our nervous system. Most people know these two states as the fight or flight state and the rest and digest state. Usually, the fight or flight will be more reactive because evolutionarily that came from us detecting a threat, which is a reaction to the threat being there, right? And the rest digest would be any other time that we would be not engaged in activities, or would be activities that we choose to partake in that have a more relaxing, energizing aspect to the activity, like social gatherings, alone time, meditation, things like that. Now, the reason why this is important is because nowadays we are very much stuck in one side of this equation, and most of you know that is going to be in the sympathetic fight or flight state, which can cause a lot of harm to our bodies and to our mental health, because this state is characterized by being responsive to stress, by being an up regulator, by having a lot of the consequences be shown, being felt in the body, in the physical aspect, and is very catabolic. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with the catabolic term, means that our body is in a state where it's breaking things down in the sense of resources, right? Using up resources, breaking down stuff that we already have to be used for something else. So imagine that when you're building a house, instead of bringing new material in to build the walls, you tear down one wall to build up another wall, right? So you're in a catabolic state, you're just tearing down structures to be used for something else. And we are stuck in this state because mostly of things like job, duties or responsibilities that we have to a job or to other things that you commit yourself to do. Relationships can be stressor. Sometimes a lot of things that bring us deadlines, even if it's a hobby. And the worst part of it all, probably a lot of the lifestyle that we have. So staying up late, engaging in social media, watching TV shows and sports events, all these are built literally and programmed to be attention grabbing, to be a stressor, to be dramatic, so you get involved in what's happening. That is a reactive reaction to whatever is happening, right in the theme of the sympathetic state. And coffee culture, no sleep culture, overwork culture, all of that will kind of keep you in the sympathetic state. The biggest issue is with this catabolic part of it, because the catabolic events that happen usually are detrimental to the health. So this will deregulate hormones, deregulate neurotransmitters, deregulate digestion. A lot of the things that will be deregulated are the things that your body will put on the back burner so it can do the normal stuff that it needs to survive, right? In the short term, this would have been okay if you're running from a predator for 10-15 minutes, but when we're constantly doing this for hours and weeks and days and months, that leads to chronic problems. In the parasympathetic side, this is the things that are re-energizing, the things that you do to feel better. It's also things that down-regulate your system. It's things that are very emotional centric. That means that what's worked on the parasympathetic state are things that are not clearly seen from the outside, are things that are more about how you feel and how you think. And most importantly, they are anabolic. Now, they're not anabolic in itself, because anabolic means building things up, just like catabolic means breaking things down. Anabolic is breaking things up or building things up. Obviously, you need a stimulus that will ask your body to be anabolic, right? I can't just build up muscle without first the stressor and the stimulus to build muscle. But muscle building doesn't happen in this state. It happens in this state. So if we have catabolic states, then this is what will bring the anabolic to that equation. This is a very common thing that I do with the people that I usually start with. In the beginning, they'll ask for many workouts, 5 workouts a week, 4, 5, 6 workouts a week. And then before we agree on a number, we'll talk about how much anabolic window do they give themselves, how much opportunity to recover from the stressors do they give themselves. And if this number cannot match this number, then we will decrease workouts so we don't stay in a sympathetic state more than we need to. Chances are that most people are already tipping the scales to this side anyway. So unless you have a non-stressful job or no job at all, you have a perfect sleep schedule, you don't have young kids, you don't have any money issue, you are probably already more on a sympathetic state than a parasympathetic state. So we want to make sure that we can increase the opportunities that you have to be here before we increase other stressors to your life. Now, all that sounds okay, and most people probably have heard all this before. Now, I started the video saying that self-regulating is the theme. And people will probably ask, well, how can I self-regulate if a lot of the sympathetic stuff that I go through is reactive? I'm not bringing those things onto myself, right? I'm reacting to the things that are already happening to my life. And while part of that is true, the goal for most people would be to not have those stressors. So when we talk about nutrition or exercise or habits or mindset things to work on, part of it might be to just get rid of some stuff you do instead of what else can I add to my already busy schedule to improve. Some of it might be you have to let that weight go. You have to take off the backpack. You have to take on the ankle weights. And that will be done by reducing the amount of sympathetic stimulus that you get throughout the day. So even though most sympathetic events will be reactive, if we are in a pursuit of health and fitness, we can't just overlook that and say, well, I already have these predetermined, already set events that are going to cause me stress. What can I do to offset those things? I think most people will understand and actually want to decrease the stressors as much as they would want to add things that could be on this side of the state scale. But a lot of people can be already stuck in this. This is where you're going to get depression, anxiety, and some of the things that are making people lack the drive and the ambition and the will to do things that are hard. So it could work both ways, right? Most of the time, you're going to see people here, but there's a chance that some people will be stuck on this side. So while taking away the things that are bad is an option and something that we definitely want to do, there are activities that you can do to self-regulate. This would be things that we would add to your schedule to spend more time in this or that state, which is okay. But again, the first step would be to take away some things. Now, activities that are sympathetic would be obviously working out. That's a stressor in the body. We all know that. Anything that is thrilling, so participating in a competition, even though that might not be like a physical competition, maybe it's a art competition or a chess competition or something like that. That would add sympathetic state, not only the competition itself, but building up to the competition, preparing yourself there. And then deadlines, anything that has a time involved, right? So if you give yourself, I have 3 days to come up with this project, or a sport that has a deadline for a time, or it doesn't have to be a time, but even like something like golf, if you're playing seriously and you say, I have 3 more holes to go, all these can be a stressor if that's what you need, right? There are other habits and lifestyle things that we can do, like caffeine, some breath work can put you in a sympathetic state. But those are activities that you can do to induce a more sympathetic state. And then on the parasympathetic, meditation, grounding, and play. The difference between play here and play here is that this is solely done for the enjoyment and the pleasure of the activity. And that's why when we build this yin-yang symbol, we'll see a little bit of one inside the other, right? This part that is representative of the sympathetic, we can have a little bit of green if what you're doing working out is something that will energize you. You maybe don't go too hard, you just move a little bit, or you do a workout with a group of friends, or the workout is done at the beach and it's something that you actually enjoy doing. So you could have a little bit of a re-energizing, down-regulating working out event. Similarly, you can have play that gets a little bit too competitive, and you can have something that is mostly parasympathetic be a little bit of sympathetic. But the overall theme of this is that we find balance, is that we're not overly here or overly here. There are times to be more sympathetic and times to be more parasympathetic, but in the overall average, we want to find balance. There's that quote by Mark Twain, everything in moderation, including moderation. So if you do have something that requires you to be more productive, you do want to be here. There are things that you can do to put yourself more in this state so you can get things done. When you need to recover, when you just went through something that was challenging or traumatic, you want to be here. There are things you can do to be here. Symptoms that you can see from being too little in the sympathetic would be some no adaptation, right? If you don't work out, you're not going to get adaptations that you get from working out. Where too much would be chronic stress, we talked about that. Too little parasympathetic, you're going to get disconnection. Disconnection means a lack of interest in many things, right? Oh, you don't care about working out, you don't really care about seeing your friends, you really care about work. Just disconnection from yourself to any task. And then too much of this would be a lack of action, right? If you're always just down regulating, this is where the depression, anxiety will come, and there's going to be a lack of action, and it's mostly just in your head, emotional centric state. The goal is that balance. So if you are somebody that struggles with being on one side of the spectrum, just first remember that this is absolutely something that you can do something about. It's not 100% just reaction to outside stimulus. This is a central nervous system driven event. You're going to be here based on where your central nervous system tells you to be at. Some of it is input from the environment. A lot of it is going to be what you do to yourself, where you put yourself, what's the scenario around you. So if you're somebody that struggles being in one side, just reach out. There's a lot of things that we can do. Take away some things that could be a lot of stressor or very stressful. Maybe put some things away that can be very energizing, and vice versa. So always good to keep yourself in check, see where you are. Many things that we can do to check, like heart rate, resting heart rate variability, how you feel, what is your drive to do things. So if you don't know if you need help, just reach out.